I recognize the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Lynch, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for your great work and for your willingness to help us. I want to revisit the issue that was raised by Ms. Kelly about the unwillingness or the inability of the committee to really investigate what's going on with the Russian hacking. But before I get into that, let's talk a little bit about the issue that brings you here. In June and July of 2015, OPM publicly disclosed that its information technology systems had been experiencing massive data breaches over some time, compromising the social security numbers, birth dates, home addresses, background investigation records, and other highly sensitive personal information belonging to about 22 million individuals. These cyber breaches were not only devastating in terms of their impact on the financial security of their victims, rather they also posed a grave national security threat as the extensive security clearance questionnaires, about an 80-page document that really drills down on folks, and were filled out by nearly 20 million Americans who have security clearance rights and privileges, and the names and the information of those individuals were included among the data. I had asked, that was a terrible, you know, some people call that like a cyber Pearl Harbor, because all our folks who are actually actively interested in working in our national security organizations, you know, basically they were given up. And so I asked at a very basic level, I asked Ms. Archuleta, who was running the OPM at the time, I said, have you actually gone back and encrypted the social security numbers of these employees? Were they encrypted? And she said, no, they were not. So all those social security numbers of those 22 million people went out. And then a year later, we had one of her successors, not her successor, but one of the people under her, I asked again, have we encrypted the social security numbers of the people, the 22 million people? And they said there are still vulnerabilities. We still haven't been able to do that. So let me ask, have we encrypted at least the social security numbers of these 22 million people?
Sir, I'll take that for the record. Yes, we have begun a vigorous program in 2016 to encrypt the databases. So it's not just encrypting the social security number, but it is the databases that contain those critical information.
Are we done with that yet?
We are not completely done across the whole OPM environment, but the HVA systems we have gone through, and I have one remaining system to be done, and that is scheduled for next month to complete.
What percentage of the 22 million have been encrypted? Can you give me an estimate on that?
Of the MBIB system, which contains those records there, all but one have been encrypted.
So what's lacking in percentage?
One major database there on the mainframe.
All right. You're not answering my question, but look, we need to get that done, okay? Let me go on to the Russian thing. Look, I understand the chairman's resistance on sources and methods. I get that. But we have, and I would like to introduce these into the record. First of all, I'd like to introduce into the record my letter from December 14th asking for a hearing on the Russian hacking. Secondly, I'd like to enter into the record an FBI investigation regarding Russian malicious cyber activity. They did a whole investigation on this. It's called Grizzly Steppe, S-T-E-P-P-E. I want to enter into the record a background to assessing Russian activities and attention in recent U.S. elections, the analytical process and cyber incident attribution. That's produced by the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence. I'd like to submit for the record a statement for the record, Worldwide Threat Assessment by James R. Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, February 9, 2016.
Without objection.
Thank you. Okay.
So ordered.
So we have enough here, just with this here. We have enough here to do an investigation, and this is just the stuff that is unclassified that the intelligence community has put out there. We don't have to talk about...
Will the gentleman yield?
Yeah, sure, I yield.
2 points. Number one, sources and methods are the sole jurisdiction of the Intelligence Committee. Number two, have you really thought this through? Do you really think it's appropriate for this committee to investigate the specific hack of the DCCC?
Absolutely.
Because if you're going to do an investigation of the DCCC, we're going to have to dive into a political party's infrastructure, operations, data. I don't think that's appropriate. Here's the difference.
Well,
here's the difference.
Reclaiming my time. You're using all my time here. Look. They hacked the American election. That is worth looking into.
There's no evidence of that, and President Obama said that wasn't even possible.
This is high confidence. This is our own FBI. High confidence that they hacked the election, that they interfered with the election. It may not have been outcome determinative. I'm not saying that. But based on the FBI, based on the Office of the Director of National Security, they're saying, yeah. And also the CIA, they're in agreement that the elections were hacked. Now, I'm not saying they affected the outcome, but they tried. It may have been just chaos that they wanted to create, but they interfered with our elections. And if we're turning a blind eye to that, that's a shame. That's a shame. That's core to our democracy. And look, if we're just going to say, oh, that's somebody else's work, that's not anybody else's work. That's our work. There are plenty of reports here that we can talk about, and we ought to do it publicly, about the damage done to the confidence in our electoral system. That's what's important here. People have to fear that we have a certain integrity in our own system, and that other countries are not allowed to interfere with that. That's a red line. We should not allow that, and it should be a very serious obligation of this committee to make sure that doesn't happen again. And we need all the committees of jurisdiction to work on this. We're a committee of unlimited jurisdiction. The gentleman has said that quite frequently. That's the strength of this committee. And I think this is, look, they hacked our election. This should be bipartisan. This should not be Democrat versus Republican.
The gentleman's time is well expired. As I said, I do think there should be, as I said when it happened, there should be an investigation, there should be a prosecution, they should go after.
We are the investigations committee.
The gentleman's time has expired. The Intelligence Committee is the only one that can look at sources and methods. That is the rules of the House.
We won't look at sources and methods. We'll just look what the agencies themselves have made public.
The gentleman's time has expired. And if you're going to do a proper investigation, as this committee did, with the breach at the Office of Personnel Management, you have to look at the two sides of the breach. Those that were trying to do it, which this committee could not look at in the OPM breach. Again, that is the purview of the House Intelligence Committee. But we could look at those that were breached and how inept their systems were and how bad it was set up and how the Inspector General was warning of these things. That we did do.
We had 9 separate investigations on Hillary Clinton. 9 separate investigations.
The gentleman is out of order. The gentleman's time has expired. I give you well more than 5 minutes. What I think is inappropriate, I'm trying to answer the question, it would be wholly inappropriate for the United States Congress for us to dive into the DCCC. You might want to do an investigation yourself of the DCCC. I don't think that the United States Congress should be diving into their individual private systems of a political party. I think that's too broad. If you want me to start issuing subpoenas on the DCCC, I'm probably not going to do it, but go ahead and suggest it. I just think it's totally wrong. How about some of the FBI? The gentleman's time has expired.
You asked me a question.
No,
I did not. Respond.
I did not.
You asked me if I wanted.
I did not ask. The gentleman is out of order.
The Chairman yield. The Chairman yield. I think we need to come down here a little bit. Mr. Chairman, you have made some statements, and I just ask you to give him the courtesy of a minute and a half just to respond.
No, I will not.
Well,
I will not. Give him plenty of time.
Would the gentleman let me finish? Thank you. This has been an attack on our democracy, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Lynch is one of our greatest members, and the passion that he has expressed is not limited to him. It's to many Americans. They feel as if all of our, the things that underpin our democracy have been attacked over and over and over again. And as I said yesterday, we keep saying we're going to wait till certain things happen with President Trump. They're happening now.
Okay, can I ask
and if the gentleman would just give me about 30 more seconds. And all I was saying is I was just hoping that I mean, as a courtesy to the gentleman, I just wanted him to be able to respond.
I'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind, to my ranking member. Does the ranking member believe that this committee should do an investigation of the DCCC?
I think that we can look at certain things. I know I am very familiar with sources and methods, but I think what the gentleman is saying is let's just look at the things that are unclassified, and apparently he has reports in his hand, and we can and see where we go from there. Number two, as I said before in answering the chairman's question, we have a bill that would I think would resolve this issue very nicely. I think the thing that I'm most concerned about, and I'm sure Mr. Lynch is concerned about, is that we cannot just turn a blind eye to when we have 17 intelligence agencies who unanimously agree that there has been hacking with regard to our elections. And there seems to be, one of the things that I've noticed is that there's been an effort, not by you, Mr. Chairman, but by others, to say, okay, it didn't affect the results. We don't even have to get there. Forget it. I accept President Trump as my president. I'm looking forward to meeting with him next week. But the idea that Russia could come in and interfere with our elections, all of us should be going berserk. I mean, we should be going, just really, really upset. And so all I'm saying to you is that I think that all the gentleman is saying is he's got documents that you've already entered into the record that are unclassified, want to look at those. Now, how far we can go is another thing. But again, Mr. Chairman, you and I know what happened with the Benghazi Committee. Basically, it became a partisan fight.
Hold on. The gentleman's time's expired here. You're going well outside the scope of this discussion.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not.
I've given you ample time. I've given you more time.
Don't do an ISO on me, please.
No,
don't do that.
I'm asking you a simple question. I just want an answer to a simple question. If you don't want to answer it, it's fine.
I've answered it. I've told you.
I'm going to ask one more time.
Yes.
I
answered you. Okay. Yes. I just answered you.
I just
answered you.
Okay. I'm just saying.
What I said, you're not listening. What I said was that what the gentleman asked. All he asked, he said, take the unclassified information. Do not turn a blind eye to an attack on our electoral system. And let's go as far as we can. When you take it to the Intelligence Committee, what you've done is you've gotten Mr. Nunes, who was on the transition committee for President Trump. And as much as I like him, I want, and as the gentleman asked, he wants an investigation that will have integrity. And I've preached integrity over and over again. Like I've said to you, Mr. Chairman, and to our committee members, when you deal with integrity, as transparency, is like money in the bank. And so I would just ask you to just work with us and see what we can come up with. That's all.
Mr. Chairman. My last point, I don't think it's appropriate. I disagree with the attack on the integrity of the Intelligence Committee. I disagree with that. I think they are of integrity. I think Mr. Schiff and Mr. Nunes are men of integrity, and they run that committee appropriately. And I'm sorry you don't feel that way.
Now see, now you done put something in my mouth. Let me be real clear. No.
I get to make my point.
No, you said something that's not accurate. What I said was, I'm not questioning the integrity of Mr. Nunes or Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schiff, both of them, I have a lot of respect for. What I'm saying is what the gentleman said, is that we want a report. When people look at the situation, I'll be very brief. When people look at the report and they see somebody on the transition team for Mr. Trump, then it becomes questionable. All I'm saying is to the world, we want, and that's why we filed the bill that we filed, and that's why we are asking for more like an independent investigation. That's all.
Mr. Meadows.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Last point, and we're going to recognize Mr. Meadows. We've gone way past the time here.
Thank you.
And I ask this rhetorically. Do the Democrats truly want this committee to do an investigation of the DNC and the DCCC?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Wow. Okay. We're now